Here we are together again on the radio. And I want to do something that is a follow-up, something I just talked about recently, and that is whether you are sloppy seconds to somebody else. This is a fascinating topic to me because we have all either, I think, been sloppy seconds or we've made somebody else into sloppy seconds. Here's what I mean. Somebody I know, friend of mine, was about to get married. And he wrote a lengthy letter to an ex-girlfriend a month before his wedding to say, you know, the chick I'm marrying will never be you. Before I do this, I'm giving you one last shot. Please, come back. If you come back, I will cancel the wedding. I will blow off my girlfriend, my fiancé, and I will go back with you. She never responded. So this friend of mine actually ended up getting married to his second choice. He never told his wife that she was his second choice. He just did it. Married her, stayed with her. No one was the wiser except some of his friends who were told. Now, I say if the person, first of all, I say there's nothing in it for a man to get married. Let's start with that. But I say if you're going to get married or you're going to have a long-term relationship, if the person you're with isn't the number one person you can think of to be filling that position, the position should go unfilled. That's it. If you really feel that way about the person you're with, well, they're fine. But somebody else would be so much better. Isn't that a red flag for you? That is what I call being sloppy seconds. The person you're with being your second choice. How many of you know that you are the second choice? It really troubles me if I'm in a serious relationship and a woman lets me know that her ex-boyfriend, her ex-live-in, her ex-husband, her ex-fiancé, really, for whatever reason, is the love of her life, or that she still loves him. My attitude about it is, if you still love him, you should be with him, not me. Now, it's okay if the two of you went to Lake Tahoe together, or the two of you went to Mexico together, or Hawaii, and you had a good time. Fine. I don't expect you to sit there hanging by your thumbs waiting for me to come along. But if for some reason he just couldn't be the man you wanted him to be, or you tried changing him and he wouldn't change or whatever, and so the two of you went your separate ways, but you're still in love with him, you still love him, why in the world would you want me to fill in? Am I like the understudy? I just walked past a bunch of Broadway theaters here. There's a bunch of Broadway plays. And every once in a while, the star of the play can't be there, and there's an understudy. The person who comes in and performs the role when the other person gets sick or can't be there for some reason. Are you the understudy in somebody's play? I think everybody's life is a play. There are various parts. You might play the part of the boyfriend or play the part of the husband. Some of you are the understudies in somebody's play. The part of the husband was being played by some really cool guy, but he couldn't be here. So she goes to the understudy, you. You play the role for now until they can get another star into this play. Or perhaps the regular star comes back. Then you get booted. Why would you let yourself be in that position? And why would you put someone else in that position? If you love someone else better than the person you're with, time to drop the person you're with, even if you have nobody. Better to be with nobody. I mean, it makes no sense. How many of you get involved in a relationship and for whatever reason it doesn't work out, so then you start dating other people? And no matter how mediocre the previous relationship with, the new people you're dating are even worse. Then you start missing the original person. Then you start doing stupid things. You know, like going over their house and having sex with them. Or planning weekends away with them. Or attending family functions or friend functions with them. And eventually you have yourself convinced that you want to go back with the person who really was not your cup of tea to begin with, but she was the best you could do, or he was the best you could do. Why? Are we all that afraid of being alone? Is it all that bad to be by yourself? I talk about the benefits of being alone all the time. And I think some of us are so afraid to be alone and think it looks so bad to other people. We would rather be with someone we aren't crazy about than to be with nobody. I mean, anytime I am in a relationship, and right now, there I am, living by myself up in the hills, anytime I'm in a relationship, if a woman says to me that she loves somebody she used to be with, or she, you know, I'm not her first choice in any way if she lets me know that. Like if she's still emailing the other person, or text messaging the other person, or talking to the other person, or confiding in the other person, they can have that person. That's where they should be. I will not embarrass or humiliate myself. I will not lower myself to be in a situation like that. If I am ever in a relationship, I have to be with the person who I think is the best possible person I could get. Never do I want to be with sloppy seconds. Are you with somebody like that? Somebody who's filling the role. Somebody who's filling that space. Until you can get back somebody from the past, or until you get somebody you love more, are you waiting to trade up? I mean, it's one thing to trade up because you're married, and you married the best you could do, and then one day you realize you have more money, power, fame, success, and you decide to trade up down the line. Why would you knowingly hook up in a permanent, quote-unquote, permanent relationship with somebody, knowing that it's not the best you could possibly do? Why also would you be with somebody who tells you they love somebody else who's not you? Can you explain this to me, please?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM.
Well, break it down for me.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-866.
You are on top of your game, my friend. On top of your game.
Thank you. It's the Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show at 1-800-5800-TOM. Sarah on the Tom Leykis Show.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Do you care, Sarah?
Yes, I do. And it's
doing great.
Yeah, because I missed you last week. I tried to call and figured out later that it was a pre-recording. I'm like, gosh, missed talking to Tom. But anyway, I was telling Dean, he said, well, why do you want to talk to Tom? I said, because everything he's saying is right. I'm actually getting myself in trouble listening to you because I find myself critiquing other people's lives based on, well, Leykis 101. Just a quickie here, I agree with like 99% of what you say. And I agree that the people who don't agree with what you're saying is because they fit into those categories, basically, you know. And I was telling, one guy was saying, oh, I don't care about having a 9 and 10, because you frequently talk about 9 and 10s, and, and those are the type of chicks that can get the guys, with money if they're going to spend money. And I go, well, you can't get a 9 or a 10 because you can't afford a 9 or a 10. So that's primarily why you don't want one, because in order to get a 9 or a 10, you know, you have to be like Tom. You know, I didn't say Tom, but I mean...
Yeah, but that's like the guy who drives a Kia Sedona and says he doesn't want a Hummer.
Tom, exactly. And it is so, and what you're saying, and then I heard you on the radio, and you made a comment about, well, I guess at your show in, like, Arizona, one of the guys were saying he got in trouble with his employer about listening to you, and you said, yeah, because it's fat and fugly. And you're right. I mean, you are so right. And I am, like, listening, and, you know, and I'm not, you know, fat or fugly or anything like that. I take care of myself, and I'm in a position where, you know, I meet guys of that stature and they ask me out, take me out, but it's weird.
And that's why the show doesn't offend you, Sarah.
Exactly, but look, are you ready for this? I said, well, let me tell Tom this. I was watching this reality episode, OC, and you were and I listened to how you talk about the, you know, men that are in position to get the hot chicks. And this guy is with this 24-year-old, and it was completely against your rules. He's like, why are you ditzy? I want you to be a little bit more, like, intelligent around my parents, and I'm with you. You know, this guy is completely loaded, and, you know, he's dating this Persian girl, and he's like, you know, I want you to be this and that. And I'm thinking, well... You know, most guys wouldn't care, but he's like, well, you know, you're going to be the mother of my 2 children. Apparently, you know, he has 2 children, and she's like this hot chick, but he wants her to be, like, at home and didn't say, like, you know, you're drinking, you're having fun. And she was like, well, you knew this when you met me. And I'm thinking, like, is right there. Okay, he's like, you know, the trophy girlfriend or whatever you want to call it, but he was wanting the opposite. He was wanting her to be hot and all of those other things to go along with it. So I was like, okay, he's probably the exception, you know, because he's looking for an in-house mother for his children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know you're like, where did all this come from? But I just had a few things I needed to, I can hear it there. But no, it's so right. And, I mean, I'm telling people, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get myself in trouble here because I'm telling people I know, you know, you're 24 years old, you're getting married, you're complaining already. I said I give it 5 years. I mean, you know, no money, you're going to be fat after you have a baby, you know, you're not going to take care of yourself most of the time. It's true. And I know there are exceptions to the rule, but generally what you say is true.
And generally, I do believe, now I only date women, I can't speak for men, but generally with women, I believe that women put their best feet forward. They generally will do whatever we want, and they will say they love everything we love. You like baseball? I like baseball. You like going out on the weekend? I like going out on the weekend. You like... They'll do anything we want until they get us to sign the contract.
You're right, and you're right. And I even told someone at the office, I go, what is the purpose of being married other than to have children? I said, the man gets nothing out of it. I was telling someone this, and they're like, oh, you really... And, I didn't even say, well, I'm listening to Leykis, but it's like, the man gets nothing out of it. It's like, okay, you're going to get child support, you're going to get alimony, you're going to get all of those things that women get. So what's the point of him marrying you if you all are living together and it's working out fine? If you don't want to have children, you know, other than that, what's the point? Oh, we need to, I said, I just give it 5 years. I go 50% of the marriages fail in divorce, you know, they end in divorce. So I said, that's pretty high. And in California, it's even higher.
Well, keep in mind also that there was a time, and this is why marriage is such a quaint institution, there was a time when a man couldn't get sex without getting married.
Right.
Most women wouldn't give it up unless they were married.
Exactly.
And nowadays, you can get sex from everybody. You get it from your next-door neighbor or somebody down the block. And if one woman won't give it to you, there's another one right behind. So really, a man does not need to get married anymore.
Yeah, and, I mean, people can say, oh, well, Tom must be bitter because he's been married, but it's because you've been married 4 times is that you know, and you know. That's
why I know what marriage is, because I've been married 4 times.
Exactly, and people always think, oh, I'm going to be an exception, but the reality is, okay, well, we're not saying don't ever, but you're completely right, and it's like the more I listen to you, I realize that I can see everything you're saying role-played in everyday life, and it's just amazing to me because I'm like, women should be turned on to your show because it would just help them to not make such fools out of themselves. And I'm not saying that, you know, the guys are always in particularly right, but when it comes to a lot of the categories that women fall in, you know, this marriage and pressuring, it is absolutely true. And you are really like, you should just write a book about it. Maybe that, you know, it'll get across to people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you know what? That will happen. Believe me. I tell you what, Sarah, thank you very much for that call. Denise on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
I have an answer to your question about sloppy seconds, why anybody would want in the world to do that. I am finding myself in a position where I might have to do that myself.
Why?
Because I love someone that I will never, ever be able to have, and I know that for sure. And I'm only 42, so I'm looking at a good 40 years of being alone.
What's wrong with being alone?
Nothing's wrong with being alone, but after I figure so many, I don't know, I get tired of it after so many years. You know, you want someone to talk with. You want someone who's been through the same experiences that you have. You want someone that you can...
But the person you're picking hasn't been through the same experiences you have, because the person you love will never be yours.
No. No, I agree with that.
So the person you end up with, that's one experience you won't have in common.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. What's one experience?
Well, let's say you get married. Presumably, that person will love you the most of anybody in the whole wide world.
Probably.
And meanwhile, will you be honest and tell him that he's your second choice?
Oh, no.
See? So you start off from a place of dishonesty.
Yeah, I think every marriage stays together with a good, healthy dose of an occasional dishonesty.
That is why you don't need to be married, in my opinion. Why would I want to get married with somebody who has an attitude like yours?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I know that the reason that I wouldn't tell him is because I wouldn't want to hurt his feelings. There's nothing he can do.
No, the reason you would not, that's a lie to me now. Because the reason you wouldn't want to tell him is because he'd dump you. And
well,
you don't want to get dumped. Stop being so disingenuous. You're not doing this as a favor to him.
No.
You're doing it for you.
Anybody a favor. Yeah, exactly.
It's completely selfish. It has nothing to do with him.
Well, if the person wants to be with me, then why isn't he benefiting too?
What do you mean?
If the person wants to be with me, enjoys being with me, you know.
Because it's under false pretenses. Because he thinks he is number one on your list.
And he's happy, right?
Because you lied to him.
Right, but the end result is the same.
No, it isn't. Because what if he finds out?
How's he going to find out?
Oh, an email, a phone call, a text message, a caller ID.
Oh, no, I'm not in touch with the other person. He's out of my life totally. He's out.
And he'll never call you.
No, no.
And I'm sure your best friend knows about this.
Yeah.
Right. So now what we find is this so-called intimate relationship of marriage. Your husband, assuming you get married, will not have as intimate a relationship with you as your best friend.
No, I don't.
So it is a relationship based on the ultimate dishonesty. And it's one lie after another.
I don't agree with that, Tom.
Well, I know you could, because it's too horrible to look at. But now you not only have this feeling, but other people know about it except him.
No.
Yes, you just told me that.
Only one other person knows.
No.
Because I've chosen not to let anybody else know.
Yeah, at least two other people know.
Well,
the guy himself.
Yeah, he and I will never talk to each other, never see each other ever again.
How do you know that?
Because I won't allow it.
Now, dear, you told Dean, conveniently didn't tell me, why this guy is out of reach for you. Why don't you tell us?
He's married.
He's married. You left that part out.
Well,
so now what happens if he breaks up with his wife?
That won't happen. I truly don't believe that.
What do you mean it won't happen? One out of every two marriages ends in divorce.
Yeah, I just don't think that's going to happen.
I know you don't think it does. What if it does?
I don't know. I hadn't thought of that because I haven't considered the option. I don't think...
Consider it now. What happens if he leaves his wife?
I don't know. I couldn't screw up.
What do you mean you don't know? So let's review.
Well,
you have this secret love affair with a guy you'll never have. You'll never tell your husband about it. Your best friend knows about it. And now, if the guy you really love breaks up with his wife, you can't even tell me what you would do, which means it's possible you would dump this very nice guy, this poor soul, and go back to the other guy. Isn't that possible, dear?
Well, I just told you, except you talked over me. I just told you that I couldn't screw over the guy that I was with. I would just
Why not?
stay with him. Because you just don't do that.
Well, I know you say you just don't do that. But by the way, were you having the relationship with this guy when he was married?
Oh, no.
So he married someone else. He chose someone else over you.
Yes.
Right. And you're saying even if he broke up and called you and said, you know what, I made a mistake. You were the best. You were the best I ever had. You're telling me you wouldn't take that call?
No. No.
Wouldn't take the call?
No.
Wouldn't read the email?
Have blocked his emails.
Right.
Have caller ID.
Right. Calls your office.
I work at home.
Right. Calls your cell phone.
I've blocked him. I've blocked
Leaves a voicemail.
Make that impossible because
leaves a voicemail.
Huh?
Leaves a voicemail.
It would tear me up, but then I would hit delete as soon as I heard it because I couldn't. I want him to be happy in his marriage. I don't.
What if the marriage? What if his wife leaves him?
Oh, that's. I don't know.
What if she dies?
I don't know. What if a meteorite strikes her? I don't know.
No, dear. You see, you don't want to answer this question.
Well, I couldn't screw over somebody that I was already with. I couldn't do that.
Well, you could break up with him.
Just to go back with somebody else no.
Sure, you could.
Wrong. If this person was a good, no. I don't think I would. I mean, I don't expect you to believe that because you don't know who I am, but no, I couldn't screw somebody over that bad.
But you're already lying to him. I mean, how far a stretch is it to then go ahead and do that?
It's a big stretch because in one case, if you don't...
So lying is okay, but leaving him would be out of the question.
Hurting him would be out of the question.
Yeah, but why don't you tell... You see, here's one way to never hurt him. Tell him now how you feel.
That would make him feel like, frankly...
No, it wouldn't.
If you really love someone...
Even if that made him feel bad, it would make him feel better that you told him now, rather than suckering him into marrying you and figuring it out later.
Well, I don't want to get married. Let's just get that off the table.
Move in with him, whatever.
Right. You really don't believe that I wouldn't screw somebody over?
No, because you're lying to somebody already.
So it's all one and the same to you?
Yeah, to me, if you have one character flaw, if you're doing one bad thing, the step to the next is a very short one.
Okay. I never thought about that. Okay. I was about to say something sarcastic, but I won't.
You owe it to him to tell him now. And then let him decide if he wants to be with somebody like that.
Well, I don't know. He'll feel like absolutely
Dear, you know what? You lie to him. Save it for him. This is not to save his feelings. It's to save yourself.
Well, I actually called...
You don't want him leaving you.
Well, I'm not with somebody right now.
That's why you wouldn't tell.
I'm trying to explain to you. You asked the question. You put the question out there.
Well, then why don't you just start off from a position of being honest with whoever you're with?
Oh, like, hi, my name is Denise, and I'm happy to meet you, and I hope we enjoy our time together. But just so you know,
but certainly, if you're having sex with somebody and it looks like it might turn into a relationship, you have to say, I have to be honest. The guy I love the most I'm never going to be available to me, and I'll always think of him.
But don't you think that he would view that as, like, throwing down the gauntlet?
No. Yeah, I would view it as, thank God you told me now.
I see. All right, well, I just...
Because, you see, dear, I'm speaking as someone who is alone myself right now. Let's say I dated you.
Okay.
If you told me that, I would thank you for telling me. And then I would never date you again.
Okay.
You see? But you wouldn't be hurting me. I mean, if I just met you, why would that hurt me so deeply? You see, you're doing this for selfish reasons and trying to make it sound like you're doing it for charitable reasons.
Well, I'm not trying to make it sound like anything, but...
Yeah, you are.
What if, like, you were married to someone a long time, and she died, and you found letters in her box saying, or her diary, saying she really loved someone more than you? Would that hurt you, or would you just be glad you never knew?
If she died and I was married to her, it would hurt me a lot more than if she told me before I got into a committed relationship.
Honest. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that then.
Hang on a second, Denise. Tony, what did you want to say to Denise here?
In the beginning of the call, Denise said that she's 40 years old and she's looking for someone to take care of her until she turns 80.
No, I never said that.
If you play it back, you said something about I'm 40 years old and I think I got 40 more years.
40 more years of life to go.
And you want to spend it with somebody who will be there for you till that time. Like 10 or 20 years ago, you would have never been thinking that far ahead. That's why Tom says to stay away from the 40-year-old women, because they're trying to lock you in for a long time. 10 or 20 years ago, you would never have been even thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, honey, when you get older, you tend to think further ahead in time.
Well, then you should probably not be trying to get Tom Leykis guys.
Oh, I'm so not trying to get Tom Leykis guys. I love listening to Tom, so not looking for someone like him. Love you, Tom, love you, but wouldn't date you.
No, you want a guy who's a pussy who will tolerate your behavior.
No,
I'm not one of those.
Equal.
What's that?
Oh, no, I'm not really looking.
You can't find an equal, because whoever you find will love you more than you love them.
Oh, that's weird. Why do you say that?
Because the guy you're with will probably love you more than anybody else. You love somebody else.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, because I don't want that situation.
Well, that's where you're heading. Hang on, David, what did you want to say to Denise here?
Well, first of all, Tom, I just want to let you know, a couple Fridays ago when you were down here in the Phoenix area over at McDuffie's, you did a marvelous job, and I got to thank you, Dad, for Flash Friday.
Thank you, son.
You've done two of the most marvelous things. You came to our town, you threw the best party I've seen down here in years, and you've instituted Flash Friday for all of us guys around the syndicated nation of your radio show. I think it's just awesome what you've done there. As far as this chick goes, I can tell you I got burnt by a chick like this who entered into a relationship with me on false pretenses, similar to what she's doing to the guy she's thinking about doing it to now. And just basically she was in love with someone else, and she settled for me. And I was the guy that I got settled for it. I can tell you, that's the worst. You know, you can't do that to someone.
How did you know?
How did I know? She told me after it was all said and done. It came up, you know. It was like...
Oh, well, that was a bitch then. She should never have told you.
No, wait a minute. She should have never got involved in a relationship with me and when she was in love with someone else. I got to say, if you want to get involved with some guy and enter into a relationship with him, then it's all got to be on the table. I would rather make a decision on a girl based on the full picture of information rather than a half of a picture, and that's what you're doing. You're holding back. And Tom is so right. Your girlfriend is a better friend to you than this guy is ever going to be because you're not giving him the chance to be a good friend to you. You're not giving him all the information. You're holding back, and you're telling all of us guys out here that are Tom Leykis listeners that you love somebody else, but you're settling for this guy because he can pay your bills. I don't want to be that guy.
I have never said that, and don't misquote me on that. No man has ever paid my bills.
Whatever. You go to dinner, you flipping the tabs? Are you flipping the tabs on the dinners and all the dates you've ever been on? I doubt it. I seriously do.
Within the last couple of years, since I started to be able to afford it, I either paid half my way or the whole bill.
As I've started to be able to afford it. So some point, some guy has paid your bills.
Well, yeah, when I was a young woman.
Stand on your feet and say that you've been able to pay your tabs at dinner or whatever. You know, that's a bunch of bull crap. You're a farce. You're a fake. You are not who you say you are. You are not. You are a liar. You're a cheat, and you misrepresent yourself. You will present yourself to some guy. You'll give him whatever picture you think he wants to see so that you can get what you want out of the deal, and that is it.
And you know what, Denise? I think he's right, for God's sake.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM.
My wife is trying to egg me into buying her some leather pants.
She wants other men to look at her ass the way you do.
Right.
Why would you want to make it easier for them to enjoy your wife's ass?
Exactly. I should buy her a damn moo-moo.
The Tom Leykis Show.
It's the Tom Leykis Show from New York City at 1-800-5800-TOM. This is Ryan. Hello.
Tom, how you doing, buddy?
Doing okay, Ryan.
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to tell this lady, when I turned on my radio, I got halfway through the conversation. It sounded like I was talking to my ex-girlfriend was on the radio, because the last girl I dated did the same thing. And the reason, I'm not really upset at this girl, because, you know, women will be women, but I'm really most upset at the guy. I mean, when I was in my situation, it was completely obvious that she was not all there, that her thoughts weren't 100% in the situation. And I just don't know how this guy is so naive or maybe even stupid not to see it, because all she's doing is just taking complete advantage of him, and yet she wants to sugarcoat it and make it sound like it's not as bad as it is. And she's just she's just totally lying to him. And I don't even agree or understand why she thinks it's justified.
Well, again, I think people do what's best for themselves. And there are many women who think it's very important to be married. And if you can't have it's like that old song, if you can't be with the one you want, love the one you're with.
Yeah. But
I do think that there are women who think it's so important to be married, they'll marry number 2, number 3, number 4, whoever.
Yeah. I just think that she's just obviously a weak person or something, and this guy needs to open his eyes or whatever and drop this girl as soon as possible. I don't know how he can't see it, because it was so obvious after, you know, the first month or so that I was with this girl that it wasn't all there. And, you know, I didn't get the first part of the conversation. I turned on my radio and got halfway through it, and I was just like, oh, my God, I got to call you. But, yeah, she needs to just totally tell him what's going on, and he needs to dump this bitch.
Yep, I think you're right about that, Ryan.
1-800-5800-TOM.
My mom grew up, she went to a Catholic high school, and there was a picture in the yearbook of the girls who were going to go off and become nuns. And I tell you, by modern standards, you would look at that picture and go, dyke, 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 dyke.
The Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show. Patrick, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing okay.
I tell you, Tom, it's great to have you in Phoenix.
Thank you.
You know, I've just been listening to your show, and today I had to call in, because I can tell you I've been on both sides of that fence. And you don't, either way, you don't want to be on. You don't want to do that to someone, nor do you want to play second fiddle.
No.
I've been in a situation where, you know, girl was in love with someone else or what have you, that kind of thing. And, you know, like the other guy says, I mean, it would seem kind of obvious or whatever, and then you find out and it's just, you know, that kind of hurts. And then to be on the other side, you know, to be, well, you know, I can't really have the girl I want, but, you know, this will do, and, you know, and that kind of thing, and dragging them through the mud. It's just basically called being emotionally unavailable. And people should avoid that situation at all costs.
You know, before I let you go, let me get Tina on the line, because Tina, you hear what Patrick is saying here. Tell us what you did.
What as far as being on the other the same side?
Listen to what Tina has to say here. Tina.
Hi, Tom. Do girls get to call you Dad, too, or?
Well, certainly, dear.
Okay, so, Dad, we've been listening to you for about 2 months, and initially, you know, how it goes, how when people first listen to you, they're, like, shocked at some of the things that you say and how honestly and bluntly you come out and say stuff. But then if you really can listen to the truth, then this is the show to tune into, because you really do have some home truths to tell people. So, yeah, I did make the mistake of getting into a relationship with somebody. I didn't tell him that he was number 2. And, of course, like Denise in the previous case, there's no chance that I can ever be with this person again, or am I ever contacting him again even, or letting him contact me, whatever. But the fact remains that, you know, at the time when I entered the relationship, number 1 was all I wanted. Or all I ever, you know, I never had any expectations out of number 2, but I just didn't tell him because I knew this would turn him off. This would make him not go for me, not go with me. So, but once I did enter number 2, the relationship number 2, the guy was, I mean, he was so nice to me. He was so much better, treated me so much better than guy number 1 that I just couldn't lie for a long time. My conscience wouldn't let me do it for a long time. And sometime, you know, a couple months into the relationship, I did tell him. I told him that I had not been honest with him from the beginning, and this is what had happened.
Wow, he won you over. Unbelievable.
The Tom Leykis Show.